Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and mental health educator. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. The title of today's video is, Just for Today, I Will Not Harm Myself. Before we do so, we have to do our joke. It's a little bit ahead of time. Probably would be better off telling it at Christmas, but here we go. So how much does it cost Santa to park his sled? Nothing, it's on the house. Yep, can't get free parking in New York, but at least Santa did better than the rest of us. Well, I want to share with you today a principle. I guess that's what I do, is I share principles, coping strategies, right? One of the most powerful ones that have kept me alive during really difficult times and just allowed me to cope. And before I give you the specifics, I want to say that my good friend Stuart's mother was very prescient. Her name was Gal, and many years ago I said, "Mrs. Warren, what's it like getting old?" And she said, "Old age is not for sissies." Well, I'm now 73, and she's right. In the last couple of months, I've been beset by these unexpected health challenges. First, I was diagnosed with BPH, benign prostate hypertrophy, which means an enlarged prostate, and which is putting pressure on my urethra, which means I get up in the night, want to go to the bathroom, but I can't, and then I have to go back to bed, but then I can't go to sleep. So you do this for a couple of weeks, and you're on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Added to that, I had arthritis suddenly come into my hands. I had a hip surgery a year ago on my left hip, but not arthritis in my hands, also my elbows and my knees now. So that's been really painful. And finally, the financial markets have been crashing, and like many people my age, I'm trying to live out my savings, and so that's been worrisome. So I decided last week to take a break from this misery and go with a good friend of mine to one of my favorite places. It's called the Goldendale Observatory in Eastern Washington. It's got this huge 24-inch telescope. We go there yearly, and we get to see the moons of Saturn, the rings of Saturn. How's that? The moons of Jupiter and the Andromeda galaxy, and just get to stare, into the night sky and just realize what an awesome place this universe is. So, it was a week ago. There I was with my friend Tom under this beautiful sky. The moon had just set. It's about 72 degrees around 9:30, 10 p.m., perfect. And starting to do the stargazing when suddenly this wave of melancholy overtook me. I mean, really big wave. And I said to myself, or thought to myself, wow, so this is what getting old is like. And not only is it not for sissies, it's not for me. If I have to get up every morning with every joint in my body hurting and having a hard time going to the bathroom and having my knees so painful I can't stand on them, if I have to do this much longer, I don't know how much longer I want to continue. I used to have this affirmation. It was called, "The best of my life is the rest of my life." Well, that seemed like a cruel joke. And, I was just spiraling further and further down. And then I had a memory flashback. Back in 1997, 26 years ago, 25 years ago, quarter century ago, I was struggling with really bad suicidal depression. And I was meeting with my friend and later friend, a counselor at that time, Pat Ritter. I was talking about these constant suicidal thoughts, urges of self-harm. She said, "Oh, I know what you're going through. We alcoholics, we always have these urges to drink, right? They're nonstop. They're overwhelming. And especially when we say to ourselves, how are we going to keep this up for the rest of our lives? It's just too much." So we developed something called the 24-hour plan. Instead of promising never to drink again, we say, okay, can we stay clean and sober for the next 24 hours? Can we reduce our entire lives to one single 24-hour period? And if we can do that, it becomes much easier to manage the drinking temptations, and so they call it living one day at a time. She said, I suggest you do the same thing, and there's a famous book called One Day at a Time by Al-Anon, and there's a very famous quotation that people like to say, "Just for today, I will be unafraid." So I want you to say to yourself, just for today, I will not harm myself. Make a commitment to stay safe for 24 hours. Surely you can do that. I mean, no matter how miserable you feel, you can find a way of kind of breaking your day into small parts and you can get through each little, each part by strategies of keeping yourself busy mostly. So I did it, and it worked. And so I said, okay, this is how I'm going to proceed in the rest of this episode and see what goes on. Now, putting this one day at a time program into practice was sometimes more difficult than I realized. It didn't necessarily mean living one day at a time. Sometimes it meant living 1 hour at a time, or 1 minute at a time, or 1 breath at a time. I remember one time I was at my day treatment program, intensive outpatient. We were about 10 minutes into a movement group, and the group was holding hands. They were going back to the center, coming back to the outside, kind of like doing the Hava Nagila. And suddenly my head exploded in psychic pain. I've never felt anything so horrible. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run out of the room, but I knew if I did that, I would make a big scene, and it would just not be pretty. So I said, okay, I'm going to breathe out, and we're going to make it to the center of the circle. Then I'm going to breathe in. We're going to make it the back of the circle. Then breathe out, center. Breathe in, back to the outside. And I kind of use that as a meditation. Use my breath as a meditation to go in, out, and kept that up until the group was over. And by that time, the level of the pain had subsided, as it often does, because intense emotional states do ebb and flow. And so I said, phew, I made it through that period. Well, there were more than one of those periods. But the bottom line was, I kept holding this vision in my head. Just get through the day. Just make it through the day. Tomorrow's another day. You never know what tomorrow may bring. One day, you will be freed from your suffering. And that's, of course, exactly what happened. At one point, this flashback, these memories I had, were interrupted by a beautiful, warm breeze, and I realized I was back under the night sky at Goldendale, Washington. They were just finishing up the program. It was time for the drive home. And on the way home, I said, you know what? This idea that I used so successfully of living one day at a time when I was in psychic pain with suicidal ideation, maybe I should just apply it to my new challenge, not emotional pain, but so much as physical pain. And every time I start to go into the future and say, oh my God, what if it gets worse? What if I end up in a wheelchair? Catastrophize, bring myself back and say, all I have to worry about or be concerned about is getting through the end of the day and using the coping strategies that I learned from my pain management doctor and some of the other people I've been seeing about the arthritis, and just apply those to get through the day, managing the arthritis and the hip pain and the slip issues just like I did before when I was depressed. And so I have found that doing this is a whole lot better than what I was doing before I went on the trip. And I made a very important discovery, that the very same tools and techniques that I've learned over the past 24 years for managing my symptoms of depression can now be adapted to managing the symptoms of pain that may be with me for many years to come, but at least I have a technique and a tool that I can use. And this is something we're all going to have to face. So I hope those of you who are watching or going into their 60s and 70s can learn something from this, because it really is all about living one day at a time. This has been Douglas Bloch. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and got something from it. If you did, please give it a like. Likes draw viewers to this YouTube channel. I think we have about 86,500 subscribers. Trying to get to 100,000 seems like a long way away, but guess what? One subscriber at a time, right? If you want to leave your comments in the comments section, do so, or you can write me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. I will get back to you. And if you want to subscribe to this channel, click on my photo during the closing credits. You'll be taken to the subscribe page. And if you want to make a donation and support this channel, click on the Patreon link and you'll be taken to my crowdfunding site. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you so much for watching.